Join us on Geek, Blurb, the show you can't ignore. Wayne and Kevin diving deep into all things galore. Comic book, movie, sci-fi, and action thrill. Reviewing new TV shows, we keep it real. Reminiscing the attitude era, wrestling at its peak. Nostalgia from the 80s and 90s, memories we seek. Pineapples for our rings, a unique touch. Geek culture in our blood, we love it so much. Geek Blurb forever, we love it so much. Geek Blurb, where we talk about it all, from superheroes to wrestlers. We stand tall, Ray and Kevin, the dynamic duo in sight. Geek Blurb, shining bright, shining bright. Did you hear about Pluto? That's messed up, right? Geek Blurb, taking you on a nostalgia flight. From movies to TV, we cover it all. Join us every week, we'll have a ball. Shuffle.
Hey, what's going
How's
on?
it going? Not much, man. Not much.
Doing good. We are at a pivotal point of the year.
Uh-huh.
We're at the finale of the year of Superman.
Mm.
We've seen said movie that was leading us up to this
Sure
point.
did, buddy.
You've seen it twice. I've seen it once. And we have a lot to talk about. Start off with what we watched this week. There's a few new things I want to talk about. The first thing was I watched this awesome documentary, or actually it was a live show last week about Ozzy Osbourne, of all things. And it was this 10-hour show that aired online. And it was a whole entire performance of pretty much their farewell of Black Sabbath, bring a whole bunch of metal bands, rock bands, artists from the past, and to show their respects to Ozzy, who has Parkinson's and is leaving the stage for the last time. It was an incredible show. I really did like it a lot. And I'm not sure if it'll be coming out on streaming or DVD or whatever, but I do hope it does, because it's something I would love to own. But yeah, it was really good. Considering Ozzy has Parkinson's and just he's out of it. He's always been out of it his whole entire life in the public. He did a pretty good job considering everything. He was in the throne the whole time. I don't think he can walk at all anymore. Between everything. So great. I'm not sure if you'll be able to watch that anywhere. You can see clips on YouTube or wherever. But the other thing that I watched this week, I caught up on the first part of Sandman Volume 1. Sandman is very, very good. I've been talking about it all year, how great it is. And this is the first half of what is going to be the finale, the final season of this. Unfortunately, we talked about it before. Neil Gaiman kind of ruined it for everybody, but it was great. Great introduction to the character. Great introduction to what's going to happen this season with Dream and all the Endless. It was awesome. And I cannot wait to see. I think the 24th, the second part of this airs on Netflix if you do want to watch it. It's really good. Last night, we saw Dexter Resurrection, the premiere of this brand new season of Dexter. I just finished watching it. Dexter, the first time coming back, we watched, what was it, New Blood? Or no, not New Blood. What was the one that came out 2 years ago?
Yeah, New Blood.
New Blood, is that what it was?
Came out I think it was like 21? Did it come out 21 or 22? Yeah.
Dexter coming back from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't sure how they were going to do it, but basically being in the snow kept him alive. And because of that, he survived, was in a coma for 10 weeks and awoke in a hospital. And his girlfriend seemed to cover up all the shit that he got into. And when she found out he was a Bay Harbor butcher.
I wonder why she wasn't brought into this show.
Yeah, right.
She must just not have wanted to do it or something. Because it was kind of flimsy how they were like, oh, well, Logan shot at you, so you're good to go.
yeah, I don't really know where the show's going to go. That he's in New York City trying to find Harrison. He's found Harrison.
Batista's
He's
on the
also
hunt.
found. Yep, Batista's now on the hunt because Batista saw him in the hospital. Kind of questioned him about LaGuardia, which we kind of figured that was being the number one question he was going to have. And now he's in New York City trying to find Harrison. He's run into another serial killer, and that's where the show's left off the second episode. So, great show. Cannot wait to watch that. It's going to be on every Friday morning on Paramount Plus. Showtime, I think it airs on Sunday still. So
it does.
So you're a Superman. We talked about everything all the way from the origin of the character in the 30s, the mythology of the character, all the way up until last week. I think we talked about the Snyder Cut and how the Snyderverse kind of imploded. Well, now we're kind of going to be tackling everything else that we didn't tackle so far. And most of that stuff is the series. We've got Krypton, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Superman and Lois. Krypton first. I started watching this show. I got sick this week, so I could not watch the whole entire thing. Basically what it is Adam Strange gets sent from the future to Krypton, like 300 years before Superman, or 3 generations? I can't remember.
3 generations. Yeah, it's his grandfather, so yeah.
Yeah, his grandfather.
Grandfather or great-grandfather, yeah.
Yeah, gets sent back to talk to them and try to figure out something with Superman going on in the future. I didn't get too far enough into it. I do know the second season, Lobo, Brainiac is the main villain. You do see him in the first episode. Doomsday plays a big part of it too. What's his name? Who's playing Green Lantern is in there too. Yep. He's in can't remember his name. Aaron Pierre. Yep. But so far I've watched 2 episodes. It's decent, but yeah, I just didn't have enough time to watch the whole thing.
Right.
Because number 1, I was sick, and number 2, I watched Crisis on Infinite Earths, and this was a mistake. The reason it's a mistake because I got this cut I found online. It had all 5 of them cut together, and this fan edit just edited it horribly, and it was bad. And they took out some of the great cameos that I always knew about, like the Flash cameo. We're going to get into in a minute. Completely taken out of this cut. There's a couple of other ones we're going to get into here, but this came out in 2019, 2020. This is a huge crossover with the Arrowverse. This is where we're going to start our conversation about the Arrowverse. Arrowverse, of course, named after Arrow, the show Arrow. And it was on CW, and it expanded to a whole bunch of series. So Supergirl, it ended up being Batwoman, The Flash. I watched about 6 seasons of The Flash. Flash was a great show. Even was like Black Lightning and Legends of Tomorrow. And then eventually Superman and Lois came out of this too, which we're going to talk about in a few moments. But this huge crossover took 5 episodes of 5 different television series. And it did a huge crossover event in the end of 2019, early 2020, right before the pandemic. And it's all about I can't remember the guy's name, Antimatter guy. I can't remember the guy's name. But it's based off the whole comic book run that happened. Same thing, where universes are becoming destroyed, and the team has to come together to try to save it. And then at the end, there's a prime universe. But the reason why we're bringing it up is because there's a lot of cameos in this show. A lot of Batman, a lot of Superman, a lot of cameos from past actors who played these parts in the past. We'll start off with part 1. And we see the guy who was in Batman. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I didn't write it down. But Bullock, I think he's Arliss. That's the guy's the actor who played Arliss. I can't remember his name either. But yeah, he shows up in the very first part of this episode. And then we see Burt Ward, Robin from the Batman series and his 1966 Batman series. Holy crimson skies of death. Yeah. Crazy to see him. He's walking a dog. I believe he owns like a pet food company. But get further into the episode, we meet Clark Kent and Lois Lane with their son Jonathan. Different from the series. I'll tell it now because I don't think I have a picture of it, but they end up changing when they change stuff in the Crisis Infinite Earths storyline. They changed the timeline to where they end up having twins instead of just Jonathan, setting up what's going to happen in the series Superman and Lois. When we talked about it a while ago, Crisis is a kind of backdoor pilot to what was going to happen with Superman and Lois.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 2 was the Batwoman episode, and we meet a Batman from an old time where he used to fight. He fought so much that he hurt himself. He's in an exoskeleton, played by Kevin Conroy. He did the voice in the animated series. First time we've ever seen him in live action. He did the Batman voice, of course. It's iconic to anybody who loved Batman. But yeah, I mean, Kevin Conroy coming into this role a few years before he died as probably one of his last roles. Besides, maybe he did the video game. I can't remember what the timeline is here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you see a Batman suit in the background in one of those pictures. It was pretty cool to see that. But going into Superman, that's what we're talking about. We got our first glimpse of a character from Superman's mythos. We see Tom Welling return from Smallville. They go into the Smallville world and they see him, and he's lost all of his powers. He gave up his powers to have a life and kids with Lois, who comes back. Erica Durance comes back as Lois Lane from Smallville. And they show him, I think 10 years, I think they said, after Smallville, maybe 15 years after Smallville ended. And he gave up his powers to live in Smallville on the farm with Lois. And they have a couple of kids, a couple of girls, I think they said. And yeah, he's out there chopping wood with his axe. And then we see another version of Superman. This time we see Brandon Routh.
Mm-hmm.
Continuation of what happened in Superman Returns. This time, taking inspiration from the Kingdom Come comic book, as we just talked about last week, up to the same exact crest on his chest with the black on it. And he's kind of, the same thing happened. Lois gets killed. They actually see a poster in the picture right there. Lois gets killed by the Joker. And he's an editor-in-chief at the Daily Planet. And Superman, as you can see, Tyler Hoskins, whatever his name is, who plays in Superman and Lois, Oakland, comes in and they have a confrontation. It's really cool. For the most part, that was basically all there was. I mean, there was a couple of other cameos. In the third episode of The Flash, you saw Lucifer, you saw Black Lightning, Constantine. But this is what we're going to talk about. Number one, Spectre. We talked about Kingdom Come last week. At the end of Arrow, at the end of the Arrow episode on part 4, he becomes the Spectre, and we just talked about Kingdom Come, and Spectre played a huge part in that. I didn't want to bring that up, but the one thing that everybody's going to remember from this, because this is right during the time of the end of the Snyderverse, the end of the Flash, and we got a glimpse of Barry meeting Barry.
Yep.
As Ezra Miller meeting Barry Allen from the Flash, Grant Gustin. And they had a huge meetup because he was trying to go through the time force, and they ended up running into each other. Yeah, I don't know when he filmed this, or maybe right before the Flash or right after Justice League. I'm not really sure, but the Flash movie was still going on at the time, so it's possible it happened right before that. But yeah, they did have a meetup. Interesting. This is before all the fucked up shit with Ezra happened, right around the same time. So. And then the very last glimpse you do see Brendan Routh Superman flying off in the end of part 5, flying off the iconic Superman look that you've seen before in all the other early Superman movies. But overall, so confusing because I'm lost in the Arrowverse stuff. I watched The Flash. I've watched a couple episodes here and there of Arrow, but there's just so much going on with those shows. It's too much. But I did watch something else. I was going to surprise you with this, but I didn't end up doing it. I told you yesterday. But, surprise, motherfucker. I watched Superman and Lois, the whole entire series over the last month. And we're going to have a lot to talk about because this is pretty much the last Superman live action thing we have not talked about. 4 seasons. No, we're going to talk about it thoroughly. 4 seasons, started in 2021, ended in 2024, and starring Tyler Hoxton, however you say his name, is Superman. And it's Superman and Lois later on in their life when they have 2 teenage sons living in Smallville, moving to Smallville, because at the beginning of the very first episode of the pilot, Marquette dies. I need my notes up for this because I have everything all mixed up today. Hold on just 1 second because I don't have the real ones up. There we go. Series is a spinoff of the Arrowverse. Superman debuts in Supergirl and The Flash and the conclusion of the Crisis on Infinite Earths, like I just mentioned. Lois is played by Elizabeth Tulloch, and Emmanuel Shariki, from Entourage. She comes in playing Lana Lang, who's a huge part of the Smallville lore of Superman. First of all, that is a iconic look of Superman from the very first comic book. That's him showing up in Metropolis for the first time, meeting Lois for the first time. Yeah. Saving the day for the first time, pretty much. Same car from the first issue of Superman or Action Comics. That's Emmanuel Shariki, who was in Entourage. She plays Lana. And this series is known for bringing in new family dynamics to the whole entire series. And the two teenage sons, Jordan and Jonathan, fraternal twins. And Superman never revealed his powers until he got to Smallville, and this is the point where he shows him, "Yeah, I'm Superman. You are the sons of Superman." And it's right around this time where one of the sons, Jordan, starts showing that he has powers. The other son doesn't. Yes. So it's a kind of interesting story to tell when one of the sons is super and the other one's just kind of a jock. And he's always hoping. I mean, he's always the jock, so he's a great football player, he's great at everything else, but he's just not a superhero like his dad and like his brother. So it kind of feels out of place, even though he's still the more sports like of the bunch. But you see Sam Lane, Lois Lane's father, played a huge part in this. Jor-El is also in this in the first season. And you also meet John Henry Irons, aka Steel. Yep. Probably my favorite part of this series.
He's fucking awesome. He's great.
He's awesome in this. The picture on the right there was what they were going to use for the show in the first season. However, they realized the budget with the cape and everything was going to be so much more to add a cape to all the CGI. They cut that out. Well, we'll get back to that towards the end because they brought it back. But he comes back as Steel. He has a daughter. He's from another dimension. I won't get into too many dynamics of everything, but the first season you meet Morgan Edge. You find out Morgan Edge is another Kryptonian sent to Earth who ends up being the brother of Kal. And that's them having their first meetup. This is him right here. And that's him landing on Earth. That's him right there with the old Kryptonian symbol and all that. Tallow. And then episode 11 of the first season was great. It's a kind of a flashback episode of Metropolis. Lois and Clark kind of falling in love. Superman's origin. You see Ma Kent making the suit for Superman out of the robes that he was in, which is really cool. You see him meeting Lois at the Daily Planet, which is really cool to see. And then he has a confrontation with his brother on the Kent farm, and a whole bunch of shenanigans happen. Superman surrenders his consciousness because they have this thing. We'll get into it in a minute, but this computer with all the consciousness of every Kryptonian in the past. And the one Kryptonian that he puts the consciousness into Superman is General Zod. General Zod's been in everything, all the movies, and this time he's also in the TV show. Tal-Rho, the Eradicator, that's what he ends up becoming. That's what the computer system's called. The Eradicator, we just talked about it, is one of the characters from the Death of Superman stories. That's what he looks like when he takes on the power of all the Kryptonian knowledge. That's the Eradicator from the comic books. So that's who that was supposed to be. Well, I thought that was a really cool touch, especially considering where this show goes towards the fourth season. Kind of awesome. And Jordan ends up getting one of the consciousness put into him of one of the evil Kryptonian. I think it was the father of Tal-Rho. And he ends up getting taken over and attacks his brother, attacks everybody. Ends up getting the consciousness taken out of him. At the end of season 1, Tal-Rho gets arrested, or whatever his name is. Superman's brother gets arrested. And then we get to season 2. Season 2 is a little bit different. John Henry Irons' daughter skips through a portal, comes into this world, into Smallville. You meet her for the first time, Natalie. She hops universes. And you see this really cool picture. I like this one of Steel jumping into his armor in one of the episodes. I wanted to put that in there. And you got America's Superman versus the world's Superman. The new General Anderson, is taking on this power from Sam Lane, who ends up leaving, saying, you're not the world's Superman, you are America's Superman. And if you're not going to bow down to us, we're going to use your powers and we're going to give it to other people. That's why you see the people in the background. Those are army people with Superman's powers. It took his DNA and made them. Kind of took his powers and just put it into them. That was a big, huge trope for the season. His brother Tao they end up taking him to his fortress. He has his own little fortress of the solitude in the desert, and he meets his mother Laura for the very first time, because he's always talked to his father through his own fortress of solitude, Jor-El. This time he can talk to Laura for the first time, because I think Jor-El was destroyed by his brother in the first season. But this season continues on to the very end of the series. You meet Bizarro in a weird uniform that looks an awful lot like Doomsday's uniform from the Death of Superman story. Right to the point where he gets on Earth the same exact way Doomsday gets to Earth, through this weird dimensional portal in a mountain. He starts punching his way through it. The outfit looks exactly the same. And I think I was reading a little bit into it. I think the fans who were watching this live at the time thought that was Doomsday, and then there was a big swerve that it ended up being Bizarro Superman. Bizarro has only been shown, I think, a couple times in live action, and one of them was Smallville, and the other time was Superboy. So this is the first time you actually meet a Bizarro from Bizarro world, in the actual Bizarro Superman. He actually goes in episode 10 to Bizarro world as well, and they're under a red sun, so everything's totally different. It's Bizarro right there. Everything's totally different under the red sun. That's when Superman arrives. It's square, number one, not spherical. And all of the kids have powers. Lana Lang is an evil superwoman. And yeah, it's just crazy kind of reverse world of everything that's going on in the real world. Also in this season, second season, Clark tells Lana that he is Superman. I thought that was great. It's probably one of my favorite visuals for the whole series. But the main villain of the season was Allie, a character named Allie. She was kind of a therapist kind of character. And she plays a character from the comic books named Parasite. Big, huge Superman villain. I think I have a picture of the Parasite comic book here, one of her characters. That is from one of the Action Comics from way back in the day of Parasite. But big, huge comic villain for Superman. And yeah, it's her showing her powers off, trying to merge the two universes, Bizarre World and Regular World, together. That's her fighting. That's Jonathan fighting. I can't remember who's fighting because my picture's in the way. But Superman ends up stopping her, gets the power of the sun, stops Parasite, and really cool visual when the worlds are coming together, Bizarre World and Regular World. He goes down and punches them apart. So that was really cool. And that was the end of season 2. Going into season 3, that's kind of where things kind of change. Number one, Jonathan was recast. The kid who played Jonathan did not want to play him anymore, had too much anxiety from being famous, so they recast him as another Australian kid. And this season got emotional because Lois has cancer. Shows Superman's humanity, more so Clark's humanity, realizing that everybody around him is not as invincible as he is.
Right.
I thought that was a really cool touch. Very sad seeing her go through chemo and everything that she has to go through to try to survive for the family. But and Lana and John Henry Irons kind of starting a relationship this season too. Getting closer and closer. By the time we get to the 4th season, they do end up starting dating. But added to the cast is Chad Coleman from Walking Dead as Bruno Mannheim. Great in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's a good actor. He's good in everything.
The main reason he's there is he's kind of an underground henchman for the what's the name of the, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, the group from Metropolis, the evil group, but he's the head of that group, and his wife is in cancer treatment with Lois Lane, and you come to find out that her name is Pia. But her character in the comic books is Onomatopoeia, who was created by Kevin Smith.
Yep.
This is probably 15 years ago. Onomatopoeia is a comic book character. Never thought they would bring her into live action, because her powers are basically, she says like sound effects, and it's like when you watch like the 1966 Batman, it's like those pow, bang, wow, poof, like those sound effects are kind of part of the power. It's kind of weird. But they did bring it into live action in a weird way, where sound played a part of her power, and her sound and her voice made these weird vibrations and could destroy people and things, which is kind of cool. But she ends up having cancer as well. She meets Lois Lane. It's a big, huge story with that. I don't want to get into all of that, but they have a son named Mateo. Ends up dating Natalie, John Henry Irons' daughter, and that's Pia in the hospital. She's given a serum to make it go away, kind of a serum to cure her. Does not work. She ends up having to kill herself to save the whole entire world, because her husband went a little bit too power crazy. Mm-hmm. But Superman saving her. But the end of the season, the biggest addition to this cast, which is going to lead into the final season, is Michael Cudlitz.
Cudlitz, yeah.
Coming in from Walking Dead as well, coming in as Lex Luthor. A different version of Lex Luthor we're used to. Big, huge beard, in prison, just gets out of jail because he's been set free because he was framed by Mannheim for this murder they did 15 years prior. So he's pissed at Lois Lane for setting him up, for Mannheim setting him up.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes right to the Kent farm and confronts Lois and Clark. I thought that was very, very, very tense, very cool, and it sets up what we're going to see for pretty much going forward. He ends up stealing the Bizarro, the one that Mannheim was holding, holds him captive, gives him the serum, I think the last serum left, and starts just beating the fuck out of him, beating up to the point where he starts to kind of explode from the inside, as you can see on the bottom right, left there. And he ends up becoming this universe's version of Doomsday. So Bizarro is Doomsday in this version, and Lex Luthor has total control over him, and tells him, "Go, give me the heart of Superman." And he goes to Smallville, lands into the barn at the Kent farm, and he starts a knockdown, drag-out fight right into space with Superman. And this is kind of the very last scene of the third season of them on the moon fighting, and leading up to, of course, what we know is the death of Superman's story. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this on the show before, but we're going to get into it again. Season 4, the very last final season, they give him one final season to finish this story, is an adaptation of the death of Superman's story from the very beginning. Number 1, cast was shook up. All the cast was shaken up. All of them were regulars. At one point, the 4th season, they ended up going to guest stars because they didn't want to pay him. They moved Michael Cudlitz, whatever his name is, to a regular because he's Lex Luthor this season. But everybody else was kind of a guest star through the season. And the very beginning, the very first episode, it picks up where the 3rd season left off, and Superman and Doomsday are fighting in space. They go all the way to like Mars, I think. And they have a big, huge knockdown, drag out fight. And Superman is on his last leg. He ends up looking at Doomsday with his X-ray, his heat vision, and right as he knocks him with the heat vision, Doomsday comes in, punches him, and kills him. Just like the comic books, a little bit different because they're in space. He brings the body back to Lois and the kids right in front of the main plaza in the middle of Smallville, and he's ripped out his heart, like Lex Luthor asked him to, and he ends up giving it to him. That's Lois and the kids crying over Superman, and that's him handing the heart over to Lex Luthor. A little bit different. Of course, Lex being in charge of everything. I guess they kind of have to bring Lex Luthor in at some point through this story because he's always been mentioned, but now that he's out there, I gotta hold on a minute.
Water break.
Getting over my cold. I'm losing my voice so far. So, but. And with Superman gone, Superman's now dead. They have a funeral for him. They have everything. Jordan, the one kid with superpowers, end up taking the mantle of kind of a Superboy-like character. Tries to go confront Lex Luthor, is taken out by some henchmen with kryptonite weapons, but they bring Superman's body to the Fortress of Solitude to try to see what they can do. He needs a heart transplant. His body could still be alive because he is Superman. He can heal, but he can't create organs.
Right.
So he needs a heart transplant. Before he died, for some reason he knew that he was going to die. He ended up putting his consciousness into the Fortress of Solitude. And as you can see, he was a hologram, just like Jor-El was in the past, just like his mother. And they end up, Sam Lane gets shot, uses a serum to heal himself. And the serum kind of makes him like a Superman-like character. But he's, 60-something years old?
Yep.
So he goes face-to-face with Doomsday, and Doomsday kills him immediately. Knowing that he has the serum in him, the kids go and take his body to the Fortress of Solitude, and they give his heart, his 65-something-year-old heart, to Superman, and Superman awakens.
Thought that was an interesting way to do it.
And it has implication for Superman as well. When he comes back to life, he's not as strong. Number one, he has a human heart. Number two, he has a 65-year-old human heart.
Yep.
So he's weaker. He's not as strong. And he also is not going to be invulnerable to living forever.
Basically, yeah.
He has an expiration date now. At one point, Lois tries to talk to Doomsday, tries to talk him down. Kind of fails. We also meet Lex Luthor's daughter in this season, played by Elizabeth Henstridge. She directed a whole bunch of episodes of this. She was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's a really cool fight scene with Lex Luthor and Clark. Clark has kind of a red kryptonite light over him to take away his powers, and they have a punch fest right in the middle of Smallville. It was kind of cool. But also, I want to talk about this too. Jimmy Olsen. We meet a Jimmy Olsen at the end of the 4th season, who kind of is mad at Superman, or mad at Clark Kent, because he kind of figured out he was Superman way back when Clark lived in Metropolis, but he denied it at the time. But the reason why he's mad is because this version of Superman, later on in life, ends up telling the world that Clark Kent is Superman. Tells it on a screen TV and everything, but what else do we got here? Lex Luthor, another picture of him. This is kind of a more comic accurate look at what he looked like. Tom Cavanaugh did a cameo as Godfrey. We got another guy who was kind of a computer whiz who worked for Lex Luthor. They named him the Brainiac, but I think that was just kind of a comic book nod. He ends up taking over John Iron's Steel suit. Takes it over, kicks Steel out of it, does a whole bunch of new advancements to it, and they give the suit to Lex Luthor. And it kind of creates the whole Lex Luthor exosuit storyline that happened in the comic books in the 90s, 80s. But and then we see another version of Doomsday. Doomsday's kind of changed a little bit. He's gone through a lot of damage, and he looks more comic accurate by the end of the season. This is the last episode where he ends up fighting Superman again in Smallville. And it's kind of like their last stand down. And Superman stands up to him. They get into another punch fest in the middle of Smallville, but he ends up being able to take him down. Steel uses his hammer, knocks him in the head, knocks him out, and Superman takes him to the sun. And right as he's about to throw him to the sun, he kind of gets loose, and Superman's about to push him into the sun. He's like, "Hold on, let me do it myself," because in that consciousness, he's still Bizarro Superman.
Right.
So he kind of got. It's kind of the thing is I kind of got into him. I kind of got to who was underneath the Doomsday. It's still Superman. And then he put himself into the sun, which is kind of a cool touch. And then he has to go back to Earth, and he has another knockdown, drag-out fight, but this time with Lex Luthor in the exosuit. Goes into space. Luthor uses this cool like kryptonite screw that goes into his heart, screwing into his heart, and Superman has to pull it out. Does, and ends up punching Lex Luthor right in the chest. And the exosuit explodes, which is really cool. Brings him back to the ground. They arrest Lex Luthor. All is happy and well in Smallville. And then there's a whole epilogue, which was crazy. The best part of this episode is the epilogue. Because it continues 10 years after Lana and John Irons are getting married. He ends up, because Superman's weaker now, he ends up taking his sons. By the way, the other son, Jonathan, ends up developing powers in the last 2 or 3 episodes of the season.
Yep.
But he ends up giving them suits, taking them to the fortress, making them suits, and they become Superboy, Supermen. And that's an iconic picture. I think we talked about it when the show came out. Oh, fuck, I'm losing my voice today already. And the other thing I wanted to mention, they have a charity. And in the show, they call the charity For All Seasons, named after the comic book.
Yep.
And then you go further into the future, about 10 years, I guess, maybe a little bit more. And the sons are all grown up. Jonathan and Jordan all grown up. They have kids. So Lois and Clark are old grandparents now, showing them older in age. And unfortunately, Lois Lane gets her cancer back. And this time it's too strong for her to fight. And Clark has to live through her dying again, or going through this chemo, and she ends up dying. So he ends up being lonely, buys a dog, names the dog Crypto, which I thought was cool.
Yep.
And also then he dies with his sons at his side. Kind of has this out of body, going to heaven kind of moment when he dies. He ends up meeting Lex Luthor, kind of an unsaid forgiveness. I think Lex Luthor's crying in this scene. They have a unsaid, unspoken forgiveness going on here. And then his younger sons kind of lead him off into the outdoors, out to heaven, I guess you could say, where he meets Lois Lane when she's already passed.
Yep.
And he meets her, and they all live in heaven happily ever after. But
yeah, I love this show. The finale was awesome. Yeah.
Great finale, great ending. And I think it's awesome too. Oh man, this is a tough one today. I scroll. I'm gonna keep scrolling. Just give me a moment, people. I'm sorry for all the gaps today, but I am not doing too well. Just like to hear on a podcast, pausing, but I don't have my notes all synced up today. So that's the year of Superman. That's where we left off. That's kind of where we are. All leading up to one movie. All leading up to one thing. The one thing we've been talking, hoping that we're not overhyping this movie, because we've been talking ad nauseum about Superman since January. Actually, since the documentary that came out about Christopher Reeves back December, November, whenever we watched it. But we had a movie released just the other day, well, 2 nights ago, Tuesday. And of course, I don't have the picture here, but Superman, James Gunn's Superman came out. And I've got to, I'm using a new program, so just bear with me, people. Our reactions to the movie. We're going to give a spoiler review at the end. I do have some notes. But just the reactions of how we felt with this movie as we left the theater. You've left it twice now. Give your reactions first, because it's kind of clear in your mind right now. You just watched it a few hours ago.
I loved it both times.
Yeah, I loved it too. And the only thing it left me with is I want to see more of this world more than ever. As
soon as I left the theater, I just want to see more of David Corenswet as Superman. Like, I want him in every DC project.
It's not even just him. It's just this world that James Gunn opened up a universe that's number one already developed. So there's a lot there. We're going to get into some of the details in a little bit. But before that, let's get into some news. No trailers this week, surprisingly. I kind of kept the news light today because I knew we were going to be talking a lot about Superman. But Jurassic World Rebirth won the box office last week with $147 million over the 5-day holiday weekend. I think it ended up being the biggest holiday weekend ever for 2025. Biggest global with 318 million globally. So they had big, huge numbers. Just the weekend box office alone in North America, 91 million. F1 opened as well, a couple weeks before, 26 million. How to Train Your Dragon, 11 million. Big, huge blockbuster year so far. And it's not over yet. So, just talked about him, last month, 2 months ago. Rest in peace to Julian McMahon, who ended up playing, of course, where are my pictures? Hold on a minute. It's going to be hard to get used to. Who ended up playing in the Fantastic Four movies. He played Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom. He's also in Nip Tuck. Never watched that. Charm. Never watched that. Just recently in FBI Most Wanted. That's one of the new current FBI shows. But yeah, great as Dr. Doom. Didn't give him much to kind of do with Dr. Doom, but for what they gave him, he was decent in those movies, the Tim Story movies. So yeah, died of cancer, only 56 years old. Did not tell anybody. Another one of those actors that kept it a private battle. But yeah, rest in peace to Julian McMahon. Last weekend, I did not talk about it. I forgot to, but our boy, oh shit, don't look at that. Our boy, Joey Chestnut, won the hot dog eating contest again. 78.5 hot dogs. He beat the record. But yeah, Joey Chestnut coming back. No Kobayashi. They still have a falling out with Kobayashi, but Chestnut was there. Also, I wanted to bring this up too before we get into the rest of the news. Trump announced that he wants the UFC to fight on the White House lawn for America's 250th birthday. I just want to bring that up. I got a new picture. Here. I wanted to bring this up too of the new Ryan Johnson.
Dead Man's Chest or something.
I don't remember what it's called, but the new Knives Out. Yeah, the new Knives Out movie. I got a new brand new picture of that. A new poster for Scott Steeling, Austin Butler. Looks pretty good. Got a brand new poster for The Paper, which is probably my most anticipated show this year going forward. Besides Peacemaker Season 2, I'm really hyped for that now too. But with a new date, September 4th is when the series debuts on Peacock. So cannot wait for that. Got a brand new poster. The marketing for the Naked Gun has been amazing. And this is great too. He's behind the Hollywood sign. His pelvis sticking out right in front of the wood of the Hollywood sign. Thought that was great. Cannot wait for that movie as well. Yesterday, we got a new poster hyping up the San Diego Comic-Con debut of what we're probably going to be a new trailer for It, Welcome to Derry, the HBO series. Comes out sometime in October. Excited for that. We'll hear more about that at Comic-Con. Brand new series spinoff is in the works for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I never watched that movie. I do want to see it. Series going to follow the character named Chief Brodem. And he's going to, after he escapes in the film, they're going to show him later on. It's going to be kind of a story about that. So I don't know much about the movie. I know it's everybody loves that movie.
It's a great
Jack
movie.
Nicholson, of course. Yeah. Came out yesterday that Guy Ritchie's left the directing duties of Roadhouse, the sequel. So it kind of left me wondering what's going on with that what's going on with that second movie. If it was so bad that he had to leave or what. But yeah. Speaking of directors, John M. Chu, coming right out of Wicked, is going to be directing the Hot Wheels movie for Warner Brothers. Interesting choice. Scrubs, getting a reboot series. I thought it was going to be on Hulu, but it's going to be on ABC. Zach Braff, Donald Faison, Sarah Chalke, all returning. I guess they're probably going to be the kind of teaching the newer students coming in who are becoming doctors. So interesting to see where that show goes. First couple of seasons I watched that was pretty good. I just watched it right during the pandemic. I think I started watching. It was pretty good. But found out some new information about this Big Bang Theory spinoff. Stuart fails to save the universe. Number one, moving forward, going to be a series. Series follows Stuart, who is a comic book store owner in Big Bang Theory, who must restore reality after he breaks Sheldon and Leonard's new device that causes multiversal Armageddon. Weird that this is kind of sci-fi, considering that the show was never into the sci-fi, just all about nerds sitting on the couch pretty much eating Chinese food, if I had to sum up the whole entire series. But yeah, it's going into the sci-fi realm of that. But probably my most anticipated news this week that I had no idea was coming out, but Larry David coming out with a new series on HBO, a sketch series all about American history, which I love. But it's going to be a sketch comedy series, produced by Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. And David's writing the whole entire series with Jeff Schaefer, who was a showrunner of Curb, of course. The log line of the show is President and Mrs. Obama wanted to honor America's 250th anniversary and celebrate the unique history of our nation on a special occasion. But then Larry David called. That's the tagline of the show. So, yeah, I cannot wait to see what happens with that, because I know he's a big, huge fan of history. I've seen him doing cool pictures in front of the Gettysburg and the cannons there. So, yeah. Dune 3 is officially called Dune 3. It's not going to be called Dune Messiah. It's going to be shot with IMAX cameras. And I believe they just started shooting this week.
Yeah,
so
they
Dune
did.
3 is happening. Yep.
Hopefully it's a departure from the Messiah story, because that story is not good.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I wanted to mention this before we get into the swag of the week, but Marvel Studios, DC, Lionsgate, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Sony, and Legendary are not bringing any movie-related news to San Diego Comic-Con this year. All the big studios are missing out. Going to be a lot of TV announcements, a lot of smaller movies, and a lot of video games and stuff, but nothing major this year. Kind of everybody took a backseat to Comic-Con, which is interesting. The one thing I forgot to put in the notes, they did announce that George Lucas is showing up for the very first time to San Diego Comic-Con, doing a panel for something, but they announced that today. But let's get into some swag.
Swag! Stuff we all get.
Come on, son. You know that's right.
We got some new Prey figures, new pop figures. Look really cool. The Predator and Naru. Got some new Ironheart pop figures as well. The final Ironheart and the Model 4 and Model 5 armors. We got Only Murders in the Building. We got Steve Martin and Martin Short's characters in pop figure form. A new 4K Dark Knight steelbook set coming out, I believe, sometime the end of the year. Wanted to bring that up. If you have some money, Superman is coming out with a brand new knife. I think it's almost sold out for $800. You can own this in a resin and chrome single piece cast. Kind of looks like the Fortress of Solitude. This really cool looking knife with the Superman emblem on it. But like I mentioned, $700. Kind of ridiculous. But it does look cool. I think it comes from Del Strong, who does make good products. But Michael Douglas officially retiring from acting. Him and Evangeline Lilly did not last past Aquaman, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Both of them retired right after that movie. Failed miserably. So yeah, he's 80 years old, so I'm not surprised he's retired, kind of semi-retired out of the Hollywood limelight. But Fantastic Four news of the week. They got a new post. They got a new People magazine, kind of reminiscent of the old 60s style, 70s style People magazine pictures. A lot of stuff for this. Sometime this week, I can't remember what day it was, Jack Kirby was given his own street, kind of promoting Fantastic Four, but in New York City, called Jack Kirby Way. Did want to mention that. The promos for Fantastic Four, the 60s promos have been crazy. You got Teen Beat, Teen Life, Teen Living magazine with Johnny Storm on the front cover. Cool looking ads from that time period as well with the whole Fantastic Four team. So yeah, the marketing has been great. I just hope the movie is great too. It was revealed this week that David Zaslav dismissed developing the Black Superman movie we've been talking about recently, calling it too woke. That was back in 2022. Yeah, we talked about it. We were wondering where that movie went and what happened to it. But I guess Zaslav kind of poo-pooed the whole thing. But on God, I hate switching back and forth to this. On Adult Swim, Rick and Morty, Zack Snyder and James Gunn voiced themselves in a huge skit. Took the internet by storm this week. But yeah. And the Superman red carpet happened on Monday. Picture of the red carpet there. Picture of them showing up, the whole cast. Picture of Corn Sweat, Brosnahan, Holt, James Gunn, and Peter Safran there on the red carpet. Yeah. Got me all hyped up for the end of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Superman Steelbook, I think went pre-sale today. I wanted to bring that up. Superman, Dean Cain. says that James Gunn made the mistake calling Superman an immigrant, and I think it's going to hurt the numbers on the movie. Okay, Dean Cain.
Dean Cain telling somebody else to keep politics out of something or something like that is just wild.
Yeah, Dean Cain. Yeah, you're Superman. A long time ago.
Yep.
David Cornsweet, when asked if he would rather return as Superman or play a Jedi Knight, he replied, "A Jedi Knight." That was on the red carpet.
Yep.
Yeah, he really loves Star Wars. I know
Yeah.
that. I've seen the video. He said he's under contract for a potential sequel to Superman. We'll get into that all in a minute. James Gunn released a book of Maxwell Lord, who's on his Instagram, Past, Present, and Future, by Laura Cheney. But yeah, Maxwell Lord had a little bit of cameo in Superman, spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
And the Daily Planet released a full-size spread in the USA Today. I don't deliver USA Todays anymore, so I was not able to get it this time, unlike like I have in the past. But huge spread with articles done by Kat Grant, Steve Lombard, Lois Lane, Clark Kent, pretty much promoting the movie. And James Gunn reportedly considering, this came out today, a Jimmy Olsen and Mr. Terrific TV spinoff. 2 different series, I believe. Mr. Terrific, great in the movie. Same with Jimmy Olsen. We'll get into in a few minutes. But finally, in news, last night's previews, Superman ended up making 21 million in the previews alone for last night. Best year to date and record for James Gunn. So yeah, excited to see where this movie's going to end up at the end of the weekend. And that leads us into our spoiler-filled review of Superman. Number 1, trailers. Saw the Odyssey trailer, looked great. The Mark Kerr trailer, the Rock movie who plays the UFC fighter, looked great. Fantastic Four new trailer looked great. The Sean Penn and Leonardo DiCaprio movie, I can't remember what it's called. The trailer for that was awesome, looked great. I kind of want to see that now. But going into this movie, what were we comparing this movie to? We were comparing it to a whole bunch of stuff. What people were saying, Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
Every big, huge comic book movie in the past. The one movie I did not ever hear it being compared to was Iron Man. And that's what I felt when I saw this movie. It felt like the beginning. It felt like the beginning of something. Universe already be kind of there. That's kind of how I felt. Halfway point of this movie, it got extremely comic booky. Not a bad thing. But the beginning was kind of slow getting into it. Then all of a sudden the world exploded into colors and comic book multiversal shit, which is really, really cool. Want to get that out before I get into the rest of what I want to talk about. The things that this movie accomplished. A new, already established universe. Hitching a ride. You felt like you were hitching a ride on a speeding bullet.
Yep.
Superman pun intended. The Lois and Clark chemistry. The heart and soul of this movie. If you took that out of this movie would suck. They were the heart of this movie from the beginning to the end. Superman's humanity, if you're going to have 2 hearts of the movie, Superman's humanity was the other part of it because that's what bridged the gap through how you're going to feel for this movie. I love seeing Ma and Pa Kent in this. Yep. I haven't talked about it on the podcast, though, but if you're a Howard Stern fan, you ever listen to Howard Stern, Richard Christie, his parents, he's from Kansas. James Gunn, huge fan of Howard, called Richard and asked him, "Hey, can I talk to your parents? I want to get authentic sounding Kansans to be the Superman's parents in this movie." Ended up crediting his parents in the movie. Ended up crediting Richard Christie at the end of the credits, thanking him because they ended up using tape from the show and from voicemails that Richard gave him of his parents. And the minute I heard Pa talk, I was like, "Holy shit!" I think you looked at me like what? I was like, because he sounds just like Richard's father. Casting all around, top notch. My favorites, I think, maybe Tessmacher and Jimmy Olsen was my absolute favorite of this movie. We talked about him before. Jimmy Olsen was in Psych. He was like the second Sean, right? And
second
then he was
or third, yeah.
Yeah, he was a little older. He's an older version of Sean, but he was in the Vacation movie.
Yep.
Where else? He was in something. That's something else. That's I'm not thinking of right now. But my favorite part of this movie, I think a lot of people going out of this, and I think it's going to bring a resurgence to SPCAs, is Crypto. Crypto he literally destroyed this movie from beginning to end. And I love that part. The things I questioned about this movie, not cons necessarily, because I did not hate it, but I just questioned it. Times of overcrowding. We kind of thought that may happen. It did happen a little bit. A lot for a first film. We kind of were worried about that. But I think everything else kind of balanced that out with the story, especially with Lois and Clark and the chemistry and everything. The first 30 minutes, it was easy to get lost in every single thread that's already been sewn, especially after you've jumped into the middle of something that's been already woven, a story that's already been woven for a long time. Simplified for the audience, possibly for children. We kind of knew that going in. Again, going back to the Iron Man comparison, I can understand the simplifying it for a new reboot. Makes sense. But the biggest thing this movie left with me, the need to see more of this universe, more metahumans, and more importantly, Superman. Especially with a villain other than Lex Luthor. And that's my biggest gripe. I love Lex. I love Nicholas Hoult, the way he plays Lex. But we've seen Lex Luthor in every single Superman. We have not seen any other villain from the Superman Rogues Gallery.
It's the Joker problem for you.
Yeah. Yes, it's the Joker problem for me. It's still the problem. But I have a feeling this will continue. I think this is going to do big numbers this weekend.
I hope so.
I hope so too, because we'll get a sequel. And I really hope we see Brainiac. I hope we see something. Mr. McSixaplex, we'll get into that in a minute. Because it was kind of announced, not announced, but kind of said. But things of note. I love the opening crawl. The Gods of Monsters. I loved how that was mentioned in the beginning. Kind of the opening crawl, reminiscent of Star Wars, of course, but set on the backdrop of the Fortress of Solitude in near Antarctica. But they talk about how many humans have been on Earth for 300 years. I want to see a movie where we're introduced to the first metahumans. Yeah. That's where this universe opens up. Like, I want to see so much. I want to see the Justice Society of America, the Amazonians. I want to see where did the metahumans come from? Who was the first one to land on Earth? Where did that all start? And of course, we're not going to get an origin for Superman. That's okay. I don't care about that.
Right.
But the metahuman part of it is such an interesting part of this movie that just brought me in. And that's kind of what opened up the world to me. Like, wow, they've been here for 300 years. This is not weird to anybody walking down the street. It's like, oh, there's a weird guy. He's just a metahuman. Fuck him.
Yep.
The Hall of Justice. I want to mention this today because a lot of people are picking up on it. The mural in the Hall of Justice. Have you heard about this?
Yeah. Yep. It has Jay Garrick on it and a bunch of others.
Yeah, it has Jay Garrick, Wildcat, Dr. Fate, and Hawkman.
Yep.
There's a few other ones from Justice Society of America. Gunn says it's the history of metahumans on Earth so far. And he will reveal the high-res version once the movie's been out for a few weeks. The high-res version of this whole entire mural in the Hall of Justice is going to be coming out. We only saw a couple glimpses in the movie, but cannot wait to dissect that and see what metahumans are actually on that mural. It's going to be interesting. But Peacemaker's cameo in this, brilliant. They were talking shit on the news on some news story about Superman. And he comes on there just blasting him. Hates Superman. The other line, as the Justice Gang, who is Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, and Mr. Terrific are all fighting in this big, huge demon in the middle of the sky. Lois Lane's like, do you need to go help them? And he's like, no, they're okay. They're handling an imp from the 5th dimension. Who is Mr. McSixaplex? We don't see him, but we hear imp from the 5th dimension, never mentioned in the Superman movie before. That's exciting. That's another thing. It's another one of those things, like the universe is open. Give us more. Give us a glimpse of what's going on with Superman. Give us a glimpse of this whole entire universe that we're just getting the taste of. We want more. The other thing that's getting picked up with this movie is the Jor-El twist, which I don't think is really a twist. It's just a lot of people may have not seen Smallville, but Jor-El has always kind of been like that. Like, Superman always saw the beginning of the message, but he didn't realize the end of the message is like you go to Earth and you conquer these people a little bit lower than you, little lower life forms.
A little Smallville-ish.
That was all small. That was in the show Smallville. That was also in one of the comic books. I can't remember what it was. Maybe you know off the top of your head, but the other thing I wanted to bring up is New Frontier. I can't remember who says it now. I had it in my notes. I wrote it down. I forgot who said it, but it was Laura in the message. It says, "You're here for a new frontier." Have you read the New Frontier comic?
Yep, I read it about a year ago, I want to say.
And there's a lot of people are saying that they're hoping that this universe kind of opens up to the New Frontier. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe we can get into that in a couple of weeks or a month or so and talk about it.
A big book.
Yeah, but the kaiju. James Gunn has an obsession with eyes and poking them out. I wanted to mention that the kaiju was kind of cool. I like that how it went from a small creature to this big, huge, grown creature. But the final thing I want to talk about is Kara. Spoiler image: Kara as Supergirl. Millie Alcock coming in. The suit looks awesome. She looks awesome. And her costume is on point, bitch, because she looks fucking awesome. And it sets up the movie, of course, her coming back at the end to get Crypto. If you've read, which we have, Superman and Woman of Tomorrow, they have a kind of a team up through space, her and Crypto. So that's awesome. We're going to be seeing Crypto again next year. Crypto was my favorite part of the movie. So overall, so much room to grow and just touch the surface. And what a vast sandbox that this movie created. So much room for new creators to grow and grow and grow exponentially. And I cannot wait to see what happens with this universe. 4.5 out of 5 for me.
Yep.
And it's just great to finally have this movie out. And I was happy when I watched it the first time. I cannot wait to see it again. And it just brought a joy finally to have a good, colorful Superman back. Lots of colors and just a Superman that has personality and a good chemistry with Lois Lane, which we haven't seen in 3 decades probably since Lois and Clark, to be honest. But now that I say that, Superman and Lois had a really great chemistry. Yeah,
they were great. She's still my favorite. Lois. I love her, Lois.
My favorite chemistry of them so far, except for I think it may have been eclipsed this week. Was Dean Cain back in the 90s, but I think there's a lot of potential between this Lois and Clark, especially their whole love story throughout the whole entire movie.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much all I have. If there's anything you want to touch on, any of your thoughts.
The concerns I had were the typical James Gunn humor, and
yes,
there was very little, if any of that, outside of Cat Grant saying the last date she went on was a 7-second man, which I caught today.
And I love that. And I loved her.
Funny.
I loved her interactions with Jimmy too. It was awesome.
Jimmy being a ladies' man is cool. That's been a thing in the comics for a very long time.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah.
A certain segment of the fan base is complaining about that. But they didn't even get a Jimmy Olsen in their universe, so there's that. I think the comedy worked on so many levels. Like I said, it wasn't your typical how he wrote Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, or the Guardians movie with the comedy. It all pretty much worked, and I love that about it. Big laughs from the audience today also. In 3D, the scene of Mr. Terrific with the T-Spheres when they're in the desert goes hard. That scene is awesome in 3D.
I can imagine.
I loved Mr. Terrific and Superman's dynamic. I think it's similar to what we're going to get when we get Batman and Superman together, I think. Because he's a little bit more serious, of course. And that second post-credit scene was pretty funny where the building wasn't exactly lined up and Superman was giving him shit for it. He's like, God, I didn't mean to make you feel bad, man, as Mr. Terrific walked away. Overall, I think 4.5 is a good score. When I left theater last night, it was 5, but I always like to sit on things before I give a score. 4.5 as a movie. As a Superman fan, it was like a 10 out of 5. Just because it was so much fun. It was 2 hours, perfect length. But at the same time, I do want to live in this world longer than I was in it. So, I mean,
it felt like a middle movie in the universe,
Yeah,
where you wanted to get everything prior that you have not seen yet.
to me,
And
it felt
that's
like
kind of where I lost.
somebody recommends you a good comic run. You go to the store and you get like issue 12 instead of issue 1.
Yeah, it's
They put
exactly
right
what
into
it
the
felt
story. That's or like they're like, oh, this series is ongoing, but they switch writers. And this writer is changing things up, and like you just kind of pick up where that writer starts off. Very good, very comic booky. I don't know how that's going to play out with the general audience. I want to talk to people that aren't comic book nerds, because I was on a space for like 3.5, 4 hours last night talking about this movie, and of course, all of us were fucking comic nerds. So I really want to know how somebody who isn't a nerd like us feels about it. Maybe they haven't read too many comics. I mean, I know I went with my buddy Finn from Australia with us last night, and he has read precisely 2 Superman comics in his life, All Seasons and All Star, and he absolutely loved this movie. We talked about it. The scene where he talks about being a human to the end, you kind of like get emotional during that, and the Pa Kent scene. So yeah, overall, I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. I did pre-order the 4K on Amazon, the Steelbook, because it looks so good.
This looks cool, yeah.
So yeah, I can't wait to get that. I can't wait to watch it again. If I end up getting dismissed from work sometime this week, because it's only 2 hours, so I might try to get to the theater again to see it at some point before it goes out of theaters. It should be around for a while though. Hopefully they don't announce that it's coming out like on fucking Max or fucking digitally, like they did with Jurassic World, like the day it opened, what day it was going to be out digitally. But hopefully it has some legs, and I am curious what the general audience is going to feel about this, because like this weekend it's mostly comic book nerds, especially like the Tuesday previews. Obviously, like people that paid for it to go to it 2 days early, they're all big nerds of the character. Most of them probably nerds of comic books. So it'll be interesting to see the box office next week on how well it did overall.
And the second week too. I mean, interesting to see the second week, because that's usually where the drop off comes. Big fans of this shit saw it this weekend.
Yes.
Overall excited to see where this universe goes. Excited for Peacemaker. Excited for Supergirl. Excited for Lanterns. Like that's the next 3 things we have to look forward to this universe. I just want to see more.
Yep.
And I think Wonder Woman is going to be the movie where we're going to be seeing. I have a feeling that's going to be where we're going to be seeing the first of the Metahumans.
Probably. Or the Themyscira TV show. You mean too?
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. But yeah, great movie. And that's it for our show this week. Wow. Thank you, everybody. I am still getting over a cold, and using a new program when I'm trying to feel better has not been fun today. I'm just thank you for everybody for dealing with that. Next week, I think we're probably going to do a Superman follow-up. We'll talk about the box office, anything else we hear about making of. Sometime in the next couple of weeks, I'd like to rank our favorite characters from the movies now that we've seen this.
Okay.
Best Superman, best Lois, best relationship. Kind of we've done it a little bit off and on, but I think we'll do that ranking maybe next week or the week after. Squid Game Season 3 has been out for a couple of weeks. I'm going to try to watch that this week. Heads of State, I tried to watch it. I have not finished it. It's on Amazon, movie with John Cena, Idris Elba, on Amazon Prime. I'm going to try to watch that. Episode 3 of Dexter Resurrection. There's a new documentary that we're definitely going to talk about next week. Jaws, the 50th documentary is coming. It's on Hulu. They brought in all the actors and direct. I think George Lucas did interviews for it, and of course Spielberg did interviews for it. But it's on Hulu now, Disney Plus. If you want to watch it, Jaws, a whole documentary about making of Jaws. We're gonna watch that. Talk about that next week. So thank you, everybody. And this is the end of our year of Superman talk. So thank you for being with us for the last 6 months as we've been talking ad nauseum from the way back in the 40s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, going right up to the Snyderverse, and now James Gunn's brand new universe. So it's kind of exciting. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time. Peace.
We're the Geek Blurb crew, here to enlighten you, talking all things geeky, from movies to wrestling to our podcast is the place where you want to be for all the latest news and nostalgia from the 80s and 90s. We review comic book flicks and sci-fi hits, riding the wave of action movies with all the cool bits. From Iron Man to Star Wars, we cover it all. And when it comes to wrestling, we never drop the ball. Geek Blurb, we're the kings of the nerds, rating movies and pineapples, our opinions never blurred. Join us each week for a geeky chat with the latest news and a dose of nostalgia that. So if you're a fan of the comic book craze, or a lover of sci-fi and all its maze, tune